Hi guys, I'm Ashley. I just wanted to practice filming a little introduction, mostly so I can practice uploading it because I'm technologically challenged sometimes. I'm here at home in my barn. My horse Ransom is here eating, and then his paint pony, you can barely see him in the back there. They are hiding from the wind because it was extremely cold today. I tried to do this earlier and the camera stand kept blowing over, which wasn't helpful. But they can go in and out to their field and they are definitely staying in and just eating their hay. So yeah, but I figured this was a perfect time to up my clicker skills because it is winter and I haven't been able to ride very consistently. Although this is really the first time it's been super cold and the ground's been frozen. I have been able to do a decent amount of riding. Actually spent today watching the Clicker Expo live, the Karen Pryor kind of collection of different people, mostly focused around canine clicker training. But that's with my friend because she's a professional dog trainer, and that's where most of my experience with clicker training has been. And I feel like has made the most sense because I've just started with clicker training right away with my puppies and then to adult dogs. So it just makes a lot of sense to me. I understood how to build the foundation. I understand how to shape skills I want. With the horses, sometimes it is a little more confusing to me. I sort of realize I haven't put a foundation on them of, just the go-to skills so that I can start to build a repertoire and like library of other behaviors. I just sort of inserted clicker training into like little problem things. And it was mostly because of Ransom, who I got 5 years ago. I basically started leasing him because I really wanted to be an event rider. And just my whole life, growing up, I did have a horse and he was gray, so he had melanomas, he had cancer, so basically spent a long time just having a sick horse who I couldn't ride. And then I rode random people's horses, but it never worked out to show them. And I was finally old enough to have my own money and be like, I just need to get a horse that I can go do eventing on. And I would say I've always had horses who were pretty seemingly willing participants who didn't really have a hard time with traditional training or anything. And so when I started leasing Ransom, and he pretty much did his job, but he was like a little scary and he didn't act like he liked anything. He hated being touched, he hated being groomed. He just would ignore me while I was riding. He'd run away with me. He would be very calm and then explode, and just lots of stuff where I thought many times, I think I want to give this horse back, but I have no other horse to ride and I have no other horse to compete at the level I want to be competing at. So we did end up figuring out that a lot of his stuff was pain. And he had like all these back issues. I finally hooked up with a chiropractor I'd used like on my first horse way back when. And she really just kept saying how much of like an onion he was, that every time we were fixing something and peeling back layers, we were sort of finding something else. And that showed up in his behavior too, where he just would seem relieved, and he did start to like me a lot more because I think I was going through all these processes where I was trying to fix the pain. But then he would remember, like he would just always anticipate and think he had to be defensive about stuff. And I took him to so many clinics and so many instructors trying to have someone help me figure out what was going to make this horse just work for me. And ultimately that sort of failed, mostly because the instruction wasn't very good. A lot of it was like, well, if he won't go, just beat him till he goes. And even I found natural horsemanship was sort of forceful in that way, that I was just supposed to expect him to do stuff and not let him do anything else but what I wanted him to do. And that wasn't him. Like, I didn't really think he was doing it on purpose or trying to get away with stuff. He really just had a hard time. And so I found that when I did start to use some clicker training, and I used it very awkwardly and just interjected it in, I actually think when I first used it, I was injured. I had torn a bunch of tendons in my ankle from running and overuse. And I was on this little scooter cart thing, so I really couldn't lunge him or ride him or do anything but I put him in a round pen and I would sit on the scooter thing and I would just click things I liked. And even though I wasn't really doing it very well and I wasn't being very effective, I shouldn't say being effective, it was communicating something to him, and I did see a huge change in him. So I sort of started pairing positive reinforcement with the training I was already doing for things that became really difficult. I will say also ended up getting a really good dressage trainer who was not into beating the horse to make him do stuff, but really setting him up to reset his body. I got really into biomechanics, just understanding how a horse is supposed to move and how to educate him to start using the correct muscles so he would stop feeling pain as we fixed the pain. And also like rider biomechanics, how I was sitting and riding and gripping and not gripping hugely affected how he moved. So I feel like in a way, to me, that is part of being something that is reinforcing, is not negatively impacting your horse when they are trying. You know, if I send him forward and then I accidentally follow behind the motion and pull on his mouth, well, it's not very helpful to the problem. So yeah, I'm really interested in continuing to build a foundation. We have abandoned eventing mostly because since I injured myself, my ankles never really worked very well. And while I still jump him because he loves jumping, I don't feel super confident going cross country. My foot just doesn't feel like it's gonna hold up. But we do dressage, and I love dressage. So I really would love to see how I can pair this with that, because I do know we do sort of feed into each other. Like, I know he has negative emotions from previously about dressage and how he was tried to be put together into the bridle. So I have to work really hard to help him. But I also know I've done a lot of clicker training with my dog for anxiety and stuff. And I'd love to kind of understand ways I could counter condition him, could shape things and emotionally proof him a little bit for, you know, even against myself, for to set us up to be like more successful when we go to shows. He is really good. He's not bad off property, but I know we both hold a little bit of tension in our dressage tests, and I know that is like pretty much what has held us back from getting like really, really good scores as opposed to good scores. So, but yeah, ultimately I'd love to have a lot of fun, and my pony back there I probably will do some of it with, but he is more, we're still trying to figure out some of his issues, and I don't think we've eliminated pain and different things. He came to me because he, I basically just needed a companion horse when I moved Ransom to my house, and the lady I used to teach lessons for her, and she just said, I have this pony and he's really good except for he's cold backed and he really wants to buck. So I pretty much saw him, and I did think, oh, I can probably train him and get him to be like a kid's lesson pony, but I think there's something going on, and they really just tried to bit him up and throw gadgets on him to make him not buck. And I was like, no, I just need to get him out of that situation and try to help him and figure him out. He loves to be worked with on the ground. Like, I think he wants to be a dog. He will do any sorts of tricks and anything, but I've tried to stop doing stuff under saddle or like super hardcore training just because I'm still trying to figure out kind of what's going on with him. But so anything he wants to engage in, I do let him. And yeah. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone, and have a good night. Bye.